Welcome to the Our Team Podcast, powered by eXp Realty. Are you an agent looking to level up? Are you someone looking to buy or sell real estate? Fantastic. This is the show for you.
Welcome to the Our Team Podcast. I'm Brian Auer, and I have with me, of course,
Eric Johnson.
Eric Johnson. Eric Johnson, it's good to see you, my friend.
It's very good to see you.
It's been a while since I've seen you because you and I have been in and out of the offices at different times.
I was going to say, I think we're competing for which one can be out of the office first.
Yeah, I think you're dodging me, and I don't deserve that because I'm generally pretty nice.
I was trying to dodge you, damn it. How'd you find out?
I knew. I want to tell you, before we even get started, the things I'm going to be talking about here, I'm going to give you, since you're basically the program director here, I'm going to give you some graphics that you can put on the screen while we're talking about certain things.
Ooh, this should be fun.
It'll be fun. It's well within your abilities.
I don't know about that.
I know you can do it.
You have faith?
I have faith, yeah. Yeah, I do.
That's a lot of faith.
I wanted to talk today about how the market has shifted a little bit. It blows me away that I'm about to say this, but our unicorn market that we had is gone, right? I mean, it's basically galloped into the sunset. I saw something on Keeping Current Matters about how the real estate market's unicorn situation has galloped off, and it made me laugh so hard. I was like, that is so true. Because we had such a crazy market where there were just so many listings and so many buyers, and yeah, it was a bloodbath on a lot of properties. But then it kind of settled down, and then it just became easier because the tempo was different, and now it's we're back to that crazy market. How does that happen, right? I mean, we don't need to spend time on that because we know how it happens. How it happens is we have plenty of buyers out there that could care less that the rates are almost 7%. As of right today, they're just below 7%. They don't care. They've been looking for a while, and they've been looking when the rates. Now they started looking when the rates were high, so they're just sort of accustomed to it. So we've already flushed out all the buyers who are fed up and just like saying they, wrongfully, but they're just like, I don't want to buy until rates get back to 2% or 2.5%. Well, that's not going to ever happen again. So those buyers are going to have to wake up and realize that those days are over. That unicorn's gone too. But we do have this new group of buyers that are still really excited to sell or to buy. And unfortunately, we have all of these sellers that don't want to sell because they're sitting on like a 3% mortgage, right?
It is. It comes down to who has to sell versus who wants to sell.
We are in a must-move market right now. So because of that, we have a shortage of inventory. So Eric, what happens when there's a shortage of inventory and a bunch of buyers?
We get a bloodbath.
On everything, right?
I was going to say we were in a market where the situation was, you could almost draw a line. 700,000 and under.
Yeah.
It was horrific.
That's true. It was very predictable.
And then anything above that, we were getting, things sitting, or could also be a bloodbath as well.
Right.
If the home featured things that everybody wanted,
yeah,
they wanted it.
That's right. I mean, we still have some homes that are overpriced, and so they sit for 30, 40, 60 days, whatever.
But those are your opportunity homes.
Yeah, they are. You can usually get those. Those are usually stubborn sellers who just feel like, my house is worth it. I remember it was worth $1 million 6 months ago, and they're still trying to get $1 million, and unfortunately they're not. So the values have softened, but now they're at this place where we have a ton of buyers in those price ranges, and it's just going crazy. So I thought it would be interesting to talk about sort of another, just to give an idea on or some simple tips on how to get your offer accepted, because there's so many offers on homes right now that if you're a buyer's agent, then you need to work harder for your buyer, right? You can't just put an offer out there and just hope it gets accepted. You have to work harder for the buyer. And so these are going to be some tips that I think will help you get yourself in a better position to get your client's offer accepted. Is that fair?
That's fair.
That's fair. I think something fun to talk about. And before we dive into too many things, let's start with the first thing, and that is before you can even talk about techniques on how to get your buyer's offer accepted, you have to make sure your buyer is prepared. I mean, prepared for the whole thing. And what we do on our team, and I think we've done a couple of podcasts on this, is we actually have a what we call our driveway presentation, because a lot of times we're meeting buyers for the first time at the first place. We do a lot of marketing, a lot of online marketing, where buyers will call us and say, hey, I want to go see this house, and we set up an appointment to go meet them at the house. So a lot of times our first meeting with a client is at a house that they want to go see. So,
well, Brian, that's called the driveway presentation, and it is in a previous podcast.
Good. That's good. If you want, can you put a link to that one in this description?
I could probably work
Promise?
on that.
You can do that? Okay.
I can do lots of things. It's whether or not I remember.
I will help you remember. If you're meeting clients for the very first time at a house, then inevitably you're going to be standing there in the driveway when it's all over. Because you got to give, when somebody calls and says, I want to go see this house, you're not going to sit there on the phone and say, are you pre-qualified? How long have you been looking? Tell me about your timing and motivation. That's not how you win a client. That's not how you build rapport. Whether they're qualified or not, our rule of thumb is you just got to give them a freebie. You have to, because the most important thing you can do in real estate or any sales position is, without a doubt, it's belly to belly, kneecap to kneecap, be in person with somebody. Making appointments and face to face is so important. So if you're going to convert that prospect into an actual client, and hopefully a client for life, you got to meet them. So even if they're not prepared and not ready or don't know the process, it's still worth it to meet them in person and build rapport. Then get them into your automation where you can stay in touch with them, make occasional calls, things like that, to just nurture them, right?
Oh yeah, completely.
That's where the driveway presentation comes in, because we're meeting them at the house, and we can ask them, hey, has anybody really told you what the market's like right now, what it's like to buy a home right now, this current date? And oftentimes they're going to say, no one's ever told me what it's like to buy a house right now, or what's going on in the market that's so crazy. Here's a couple things you really need to know about what's going on. Has anyone shared that with you? It's always going to be a no. And that's when you just break out your phone. The presentation's on your phone. You just go into whether you're using, there's a lot of different programs you can use.
You're either using Keynote or you're using PowerPoint.
That's what I couldn't remember the name of PowerPoint because I'm such a Keynote guy. But whatever device you're on, you can use one of those programs. If you have it down, you can just scroll through and just ask them, first we got to get clear on your needs. Then we need to learn how to embrace technology in these ways. We got to be ready, meaning I need, there's multiple offers on a lot of things, so we have to be ready to move fast. I need to know how you're going to purchase. I know, you have to understand the contract. We have to compile a complete file on you where I have your pre-qual, your proof of funds, all these different things. And then we have to get really clear on offer terms, which is really more our thing. The whole point of it is you can create or you can steal from ours, but we have a presentation where we just really get to the root of it to make sure that the buyer is ready, right? Or at least knows the process. And then you can kind of sort and sift through who's serious through that process. And if they're not ready, if that's moving too fast, then they're not ready, but you can still put them in whatever bucket you need. So this is, everything we're going to talk about right now is under the auspices of they're ready, they want to buy, and you've got all your ducks in a row. You've gone through a driveway presentation with them, and they are qualified, ready to go. Now you're writing offers, and you don't want it to take 50 tries. So there's some things you can do to get to better your chances. And let's start with getting to know or try to connect with the listing agent. I think it's really important to ask the right questions. Call the listing agent, even if it says, don't call, text, or whatever. So if that's their love language, then text these questions. But try to build a little bit of rapport. Don't be full of animosity. Like, I need to get my client's offer accepted, and I need to know this, and this. Just be cool about it. I think diplomacy is so huge in our business. It goes a long way. So if you get to know the agent, just to collect some intel, there's some questions you should probably ask. Like, for example, what's your client? What's the seller looking for? Is it just price? Is it that they're really interested in getting a loving family in here to assimilate with the, whoever's, a seller can do that. We can't do that as agents. But a seller can say, I only want to sell this to a loving family with a bunch of kids because that's, this neighborhood. They can choose to do that. So if it's that they want a fast close, is it that they need a seller in possession, what we call an SIP? Do they want to close escrow and then stay there for a while, and then we can just give them, up to 29 days free to stay there? Is it something about the property the buyer has to accept? Like maybe there's solar that they have to do, or maybe they have to accept the fact that there's a weird easement on it or something like that. What are the terms?
But the thing that every buyer's agent needs to remember is that at the end of the day, the seller or the listing agent is working for the seller.
Right.
Seller tells them they can't communicate, then they really can't communicate.
That's true.
And so you have to figure out, how much can they talk about and what they're willing to give. Usually the ones that are under a strict like NDA, for lack of a better word, they will tell you everything that they can tell you in one fell swoop. Mm-hmm. And if that's all they can tell you, then that's the way it goes.
Yeah. We recently sold that property on Arroyo, and the seller was just like, I want you to tell them everything. I said, everything? Yeah. Tell them I'm out of, tell them I already moved out. Tell them I'm this, tell them I think that you're going to lose a little bit of leverage on this deal if you let me. He wanted me to just be open with everyone because he didn't want any weirdness in escrow. So every time an agent called me, I said, you know what? The seller's giving me liberty to tell you this, and I would just tell them everything. Things I would not normally tell. So you're right. It just depends on the situation. But I think to the point of this first part of getting your offer accepted, I think it's really a good idea to try, if you can, to call the listing agent, get to know them.
That was what I was getting at.
Ask these questions.
Even if you're stuck with I work for a real estate investment trust, just that was when I had a buyer that wanted to buy something, and they were he was like, I can't do anything but tell you this. I still felt like I built rapport with them.
Absolutely. Yeah, for sure. Because some agents are just shy, and so they'll just send their offer and hope it gets responded. It's better. I mean, things you can do to build rapport is just like you talk to them. And by the way, what you're doing when you're asking those questions, those 5 questions, what you're doing is you're not only building rapport with the agent, but you're gathering intel, so that you can create, because if they tell you all this information about what the seller says, the listing agent says, my seller really is looking for this and this and this and this. Great. Take that intel back to the buyer and say, here's what they're really looking for. So let's go big on all these things. And then you can write a really clean offer because you're using that information as inside intelligence, right? And so I think that's one way to make your offer stand out. There's other ways to make your offer stand out. It has a quick close if that's something that they want. You can make sure you submit your offer with no crazy conditions or needless addendums, right? We're seeing buyers give sellers a cash bonus now. Seriously. Free rent back. That's the SIP we talked about. Buyers are now willing, at least if the buyer's agent, brings this up as a strategy, they're willing to cover sellers' closing costs. If not all of them, a big chunk of them, and that's title fees, escrow fees. That's usually about 1.5% of the whole, the whole sales price. So you can do the math on that. And sometimes, if you again, a lot of times, terms are more important than just a higher offer. So let's say the home is listed for $850,000. You might beat out somebody that offers $875,000 because you're coming in at $800. You're coming in at list price, but you're willing to pay all the seller's closing costs. And for some reason, that just might be a better deal for them, even though that's only going to cost you $15,000 instead of coming up $25,000.
But in the reality, you just save the seller money too, because now he's not having to pay fees to everybody else because of the higher price.
And as a buyer, those are closing costs for you because they moved over on that side of the HUD. So now you have higher closing costs, which is a write-off. So, I mean, it can be better all around. It might take a little bit of smooth talking and some good quality communication to help them see that, hey, my buyer just wants to come in at list price because there might be an appraisal issue, but here's what they are willing to do. They're willing to pay for, some broker fees, some escrow fees, title fees, things like that. So those are things that can really help the offer stand out. And at the end of the day, that's what really needs to happen. So one thing you can do too is after you send that offer, because again, it's all about sending a clean offer, figuring out what that needs to be, and then building rapport with the agent. We have a couple agents on our team that are really big on video. And so they'll send a text video like, "Hey, Sandra, nice chatting with you. I just want to let you know I'm structuring the offer right now with my buyer, and I'm going to be sending it to you to the email that you specified in the MLS. Looking forward to working with you or having a chance at this one," right? So you're building rapport. Then another video, "Hey, just want to let you know I sent the offer." So you're just really communicative. And, I'm telling you, when push comes to shove, when you have all these offers that are very equal, and you have a seller that's saying, "Gosh, these are all really, really good. We've got highest and best here, and we've got 2 identical offers, or maybe 3. Which one would you go with?" They always ask my opinion. And if I have a history with a certain agent that is very problematic, really, kind of a bulldog, or some agents that I know that are in this valley literally get in the way of a successful sale. Our job is to keep things together ethically, but if I know I have an agent like that, and we do a lot of listings, so I'm going to pick the one that I have a good track record with, that's really good with communication, that their yes is a yes, their no is a no, and I have that with them, right? Good rapport, good reputation. I'm going to tell my client, if I'm listing their home, let's go with this offer because I have a lot of experience with this agent, and they have really good control of the equation. They have good buyer control. That sounds kind of mean, but they know how to educate. Buyer control means they know how to educate their buyer. They know they've probably done a driveway presentation. They know how this whole thing goes, right? So that's the point. Be the agent that listing agents really like to do deals with, and you'll get picked more often.
Correct.
We've talked about how terms are often more important than just high price, but sometimes high price is really the only thing they're looking for. Many times I've called to try to talk to the seller, the listing agent, say, "Hey, what does the seller need?" And they're just like, you know what? They're just looking for the most price. They want to net the most they can possibly net. And when it's that, then you just have to explain to your buyer that what's going to win this is the highest price. So how high are you willing to go? And that's when the ladder up method works really, really good. Have we talked about this before?
We did in the meeting, but I think it's something worth sharing.
I think it's really cool. I learned this I don't remember if I learned it from Tom Ferry or if it was somebody in their organization that he had up on stage. It was awesome. What you do is, if you're in a situation where the only way your buyer is going to get this property is by being the highest price, what you do is you take their current offer. Let's just use let's say they're buying a condo and they love the condo. Let's just use a $450,000 condo. And you take their offer price and you just add $5,000 to it. You say, if you lost to somebody that offered $455,000, would you be okay with that? And what you do is you just kind of keep going. You just keep going. Oh, yeah, I would not be okay with that. I would have wanted to get that at $455,000. Okay, cool. So let's go in at $455,000. But if somebody came in at $460,000 and won, would you be okay with that? Right? And so that's kind of how you do it. So here's what that process looks exactly like this. And I took this from one of Tom Ferry's publications. I'm not taking credit for this. This is something that I literally copied and pasted. So you want to put this
R&D?
Yeah, rip off and duplicate. I want you to put this on the screen. Just put this I'll send it to you so you can add this. It's something that you want to have fun with your client. And I would start off by saying, hey, play along with me. Let's have fun with this. I just want to kind of get to know where you're at with what you want to offer this. So, how much do you want to offer? Say the buyer says $460,000. You, as the agent, say, so if you found out that the home sold for $465,000, would you have paid that amount? The buyer is, of course, going to say, well, yes, I would have paid $465,000. Say, okay. As the agent, you say, now, if you found out that somebody paid $470,000, would you have paid $470,000? Buyer says, yeah, I'd have paid $470,000. And usually at this point, they're going to be like, look, we could go on forever and ever, right? So the buyer's going to say that, right? What are we going to do with this? You say, look, I understand. So what is the most you're willing to pay for this? What is your highest offer that you'll pay on this house? And let's say they say $480,000. That's when you start the game again. I know it sounds crazy, but you literally you say, okay, but you start off with smaller numbers. Okay, $480,000. So if somebody beats you out by $1,000 and they got it for $481,000, would you be okay with that? And they're going to be like, no, not really. Okay, so let's go to $481,000. You good with $481,000? Yeah, $481,000's good. Now, if somebody beats you out at $482,000, would you be okay? You see what I'm saying? You kind of ladder up with that, and it's very effective. The funny thing is I don't know where I learned that, but years and years ago when I was working with a lot of buyers and a lot of investors buying REO properties, actually Jason Harper's REOs, because I was buyer's agent on a lot of those, I was using this technique. And I may have learned it from either, I don't know if it was a Joe Sugarman thing or a Dan Kennedy thing or whatever, but I had it, and I used to do this, not as clean as what the Tom Ferry script is, but I highly recommend that if you're in a situation where you know your buyer's only going to get the property by being the highest, this ladder up technique is a good way to sort of feel out what their real tolerance is. So anyway, there's some other things to consider. You always want to build or stay in an attitude of cooperation with the listing agent, not animosity, not that guy that says, I'm representing my buyer, you represent your seller, and you just try to keep this huge distance. You want to try to really be that agent that says, look, I want to work together with you so that we can have a successful close for both our clients, right? Be that person. You'll get, a lot further in the equation. Do you have anything to add to that? What do you think about all this?
You catch more bees with honey?
Yes, you do. A lot more bees with honey. How about this one? I think it's really important. If you're writing an offer, and let's say you're on a team, like we have a pretty awesome team. I noticed that a lot of times the agents will CC us as team leaders when they're writing their offers. And they do that so that we can chime in and say, let's say you write an offer on a property in Menifee, and you're saying to Frank, hey Frank, thanks for the opportunity. My buyer loves this house. Here's the offer. You do all the stuff you're doing. I can chime in if I'm CC'd as a team leader and say, hey Frank, thanks again for letting Eric have an opportunity here. I want to let you know that Eric is an incredible agent. He is working with a highly qualified buyer, blah, blah, blah. And I can sort of chime in because I know a lot of the agents in this valley. I've been doing this. I've been selling real estate for 25 years. So that would be a way for you, someone on a team, to rely on the strength of your team by CCing when you write the offer so that we can chime in. The other thing is the lender. Always, always, always CC the lender that the buyer's using, because that way the lender can chime in and say, hey Frank, I just want to know, we'll let you know that Eric's buyer is fully underwritten. We can close in 15 days or whatever it is. We've got, he can give his credentials as well. So it just lends to that. And if you're working with a lender that doesn't understand what to do when they're CC'd, then you need to take time to train them, right? You should work together with your lender train the lender to know, or at least to understand that, look, when you see me CC you on our mutual clients, offer, that's your invitation to chime in and say, some really good bullet points about me as an agent, about you as a lender, about the buyer. Let's work together with our mutual client to get the offer accepted. So, and if you're working with a lender that's not willing to do that or doesn't do that, then please find a different lender, because that's not a lender that's working with you. In fact, I think that's almost a lender working against you. You need that. You need that power. So if you're on a team, CC the team, CC the lender. It's something that will really work a lot better to help breed some confidence with your offer compared to a lot of others. The last thing I think would be, and there's a lot we're probably leaving out of this, but the last thing I want to make really, really clear is if, and this is coming from somebody that we do more listings and work with buyers. One thing that irritates the heck out of me is when agents don't follow directions. So we make it very easy on agents, because I want it to be easy on us when I write offers, right? So we make it as easy as possible on agents. And I know there's a lot of new agents out there, so we are a very cool team in terms of we have a lot of grace, a lot of forgiveness, super cool. If someone, doesn't know what they're doing and we can tell, we'll actually reach out to them and say, hey, you should probably structure it this way, and this, your buyer's not protected unless you do this. And we help other agents, it's just the way we are as a team. But there are some times when it's just too much. It's like, are you kidding me? Follow directions. There's offer directions in there for a reason, and it's usually to benefit everyone in the transaction. If we have very specific directions on, we want you to send these 5 items to this email and CC this email, then that's because A, we're going to find your offer easier, and B, if we do accept your offer, then everything's kind of good to go. A lot of things are tied to our sky slope, things like that. So it's if you don't follow directions, you're already behind the 8 ball on you're killing rapport. You're not doing your buyer any service, right? So following directions is very, very, very important. Can you think of anything else to add?
No, that was it. I was going to say it kills rapport quicker than anything else.
Oh, yeah. You don't want to send an offer and then have someone say, did you not see the directions? It's like, oh, crap, maybe I didn't. So before look, you're already calling them first. You're already building rapport. You're already finding out what the seller needs. You're using that as intel. You're structuring the cleanest offer you can. You're using creative terms to get your offer looked at or to stand out. If it's only price, then you're using techniques to help your buyer get up as high as they possibly can. I think it's important to CC someone that can vouch for you. I think that's an important equation when sending your offer. So CC or TC. I think we've covered all of it. It's crazy that we're back in a market where we have to talk about techniques on how to get your offer accepted. When I thought at the beginning of the year, I thought we would be at a place where it's like, you're probably going to get a discount on some homes. And it's just not happening. And now we're seeing them going up. In Temecula Valley right now, values are still going up just under 0.5% per month. Yeah. Per month. So that's what? That's 6% a year. I mean, that's already...
That's double what it had been years prior.
Yeah. Well, we saw in those unicorn months.
No, I meant 2018 and prior, 3% a year.
All the way up to 19 was about 3% a year. So we're better than that right now. And again, that's because there's way more buyers than inventory, and that's just what happens with supply and demand. So anyway, I hope you guys got a little something out of this. If you would like any of the screenshots of the presentation that I did in front of our team,
they'll be on the video.
They'll be on the video. You'll see those, right?
Yeah.
And I guess we will catch you on the next one.
Hey, wait, before you go, would you do us a favor? If you found any value in this content, would you please like and subscribe to it? Maybe even leave a comment. It really helps us out.